Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day it is when this video crosses your path. Um, Today I wanted to talk about my older son, Jermaine. I talk so much about the baby and my experiences in motherhood with him, and um, what I went through with his dad. Um, but I don't really talk about my oldest and what I went through raising him and my experiences with his dad. Um, but I remember when I found out I was pregnant. And I just get so cheerful when I think about it or when I talk about it, because finding out that I was pregnant at 18 with Jermaine was it's like life before pregnancy, life before Jermaine just went away. My crazy upbringing, the drama in my childhood, the unhealed child in me kind of got silenced as I went into motherhood. And finding out I was pregnant with him, I immediately I call him my angel. I always refer to my oldest as my angel, because I just feel like he was just sent as this gift for me. It happened out of the blue. To be honest, I didn't know I could get pregnant. I was 18, fresh out of foster care, just living my life. And I met his dad. We were working together at Applebee's. And he worked in the dish pit. I was a server. And we got to talking at work, because Brandon, which is his dad's name, Jermaine's dad's name, Brandon had a lot of hair, and I think he used to keep it braided, but one day he came to work and it wasn't braided. It was just, I think he had a hat on. Pretty sure he had a hat on, like a Scully type of hat, like a winter hat, to hide his hair. And I said something to him about his hair, and I think he said, well, you want to braid it? And I obliged. I said, okay, I'll braid your hair. So that's basically how it happened. I don't remember. It's crazy because I don't remember meeting him or even braiding his hair. I remember meeting him, but I don't remember braiding his hair, going from braiding his hair to how we ended up doing the do and getting pregnant. I literally don't remember that period of time. I just remember meeting him and being in Planned Parenthood, doing a pregnancy test. And this was about, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 weeks after meeting him when I went to do the pregnancy test. And I was in there. I did not believe I was pregnant. He always says that he knew, and I don't know. The reason I actually took a pregnancy test was because he and I got in a car accident one morning taking him to work, and I had to get an x-ray. And I was in the machine to get the x-ray, and the doctor, he just out the blue, he's like, yeah, is there a chance that you could be pregnant? And I thought for a second, and I was just like, I didn't feel pregnant. I didn't think I was pregnant, but we were having unprotected sex. So obviously there was a possibility. So I said, yeah. So I guess there's a possibility. So I didn't get the x-ray that day. I had to go get a pregnancy test, go down to Planned Parenthood. Me and him go down to Planned Parenthood. I did the test. I'm back there. He's out in the waiting room waiting. And the nurse comes back and she's like, yeah, you're pregnant. I was like, I immediately snapped. I was like, what? I was like, you're lying. Literally loud. Like, Brandon heard me in the waiting room. Like, the whole waiting room could hear me saying, you're lying. So that was just like, I don't know, like it just makes me so cheerful. Because Jermaine was just always a blessing to me. I loved him from the moment I knew about him. From the moment I knew about my son. Before I knew he was a boy, before I knew anything, before I knew his name. He was just a little seed in my belly. I loved him unconditionally. And I smoked back then too. So we left out of Planned Parenthood, and I had one cigarette. Okay, one cigarette when I went in. So found out I'm pregnant. I leave, and I don't remember if I smoked that one cigarette or not. But I'm gonna, just because I don't want to try to sound too goody two shoe, I'm gonna say I smoked it. So I smoked that one cigarette and I did not smoke anymore throughout my entire pregnancy. I quit cold turkey. Like, when I say I loved him, like, I wanted to be the best type of mom ever. I just, from the moment I found out about him, like, I wanted to be better than my mom. And so I didn't smoke. And at that point, I was a smoker for at least 7 or 8 years. I started smoking around 12 or 13, so I was 18 years old. And I didn't smoke. I think I smoked that one cigarette, and that was it. So I go on through the pregnancy, and I have Jermaine. Like I said, I wanted to be the best mom. Jermaine was breastfed. I was home with him for 6 months, and then I obviously I had to think about, how I'm gonna provide for him. So at the time, I had a friend who went to school for medical assisting, so she kind of introduced me to that idea of medical assisting, and that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going to school to get my it's a diploma or certificate in medical assisting, and that's how I provided for my son until I stopped. I got out of the field in 2019. Jermaine was about 14, I want to say. So for a good 14 years, that's what I did. That's how I took care of my son. So yeah, I stayed home with him for about 6 months. And then I went to school for, I don't even know, it was maybe 6 months of schooling, something like that. Then right after that, I got a job. So Jermaine was in daycare from 6 months and up until, like, he was always in daycare, and the daycare from daycare to preschool, or not preschool, but K4 or 5, like, because he started going to that at 3, and then 4, like, so on and so on. So he's just always been, not like Justice, where Justice is home. I've been home with Justice since he's 17 months now. So boy, oh boy, motherhood was a joy for me. Like, it was a joy. But we gotta remember, when I had Jermaine, I was 19. Okay, I was 19. I was not raised by my mom. My grandpa raised me. My grandpa was a stone cold alcoholic and very abusive, physically abusive. Just a lot going on in my upbringing. I had no real idea of what motherhood was. The only thing that I focused on was my love for my son, and I let that guide me, as well as I didn't want to be like my mom. Like, I wanted to be the complete opposite of my mom. My mom was a drug addict. My mom and my dad, they both were drug addicts. And I knew from an early age that my mom was a drug addict. Alcoholism was in my household, in my grandpa's household. He drank every day and every day. My mom wasn't present, although in adulthood, me and my mom, we were pretty close. But as a child, my mom was very just all over the place. Like I never knew where she was. I could never depend on her. I didn't live with her. I lived with her periodically, like for a few times, but I don't even remember those experiences. And I think a lot of trauma happened from living with my mom, which we can talk about at a later date. But so when it came to my mom, or when it came to motherhood, I just wanted to love my son, and I let that guide me, and I wanted to be the opposite of my mom. Like, I didn't want my son seeing me drinking. I didn't want my sons ever to see me drunk, intoxicated. I didn't do drugs. I didn't smoke weed. So it was only alcohol that I was dealing with, but I didn't want him to see violence. Like, I really, really did my absolute best to protect him. I did my best, like what I knew to do to protect him as far as mentally. I didn't understand emotional protection, and I'll get to that later, but I tried to protect that. I tried to protect him physically. I tried to protect him. I ain't gonna say I tried, because I believe I did. My son didn't grow up seeing violence. He didn't grow up seeing me intoxicated. He didn't grow up seeing me party. Like, he didn't grow up seeing none of these things. Like, he did it. Like, I was a very present mom. And so then me and his dad, when we were together, Brandon was a very good provider. Financially, it was great. It was great. Brandon was always, from day one, he was always marriage material. Like, he was a man that any woman would be happy to marry, because he provided, and he wasn't one of them guys in the streets. He wasn't a cheater. He worked. He exercised, because at the time, he was training for boxing matches. Very family oriented as far as his family goes. But the problem was, and he wanted marriage. Like, he wanted family and he wanted marriage. The problem was with him, between he and I, is we didn't connect very much emotionally, so to speak. We are very, very, very different people, which is fine. It really was, because his differences I started to like. Like, his music that he listened to was very strange to me. Like, if you know, Pastor Troy is the only guy I can remember. There was other music, but Pastor Troy, he used to listen to Pastor Troy all the time. And if you know what Pastor Troy kind of music is, it's that kind of music. And I was just like, I didn't understand that kind of music at all. But then I don't know, I started ended up liking it a little bit. But it was his differences that, even the way he talked, the way he was, like, he was a little weird, but so was I, and I still am, a little weird, and I think that that's okay. You know, like, I started to like his weirdness, like, it was okay with me. But the problem began because we didn't connect emotionally a lot, which, like I said, it wasn't that deep. We could have worked through all that, right? But the problem that I had with him is he wasn't present. So Brandon would work anywhere from 10 to 14, 16-hour days, okay? And while I'm thinking he's going to come home after work, he doesn't. He goes and he has to run some days. Some days he has to go see his grandma, and his mom didn't live in this state at the time, but he'd go see his grandma and he'd go hang out. And then it was like he would come home. And he always seemed to choose everyone else and everything else first before he chose me and his son. And granted, he paid the bills. We both paid the bills when I was working, but he paid the bills. He provided. Like, I didn't worry when I was with him. He bought a house for us and everything. But when it came to what I needed as a mom and what his son needed as a father, he just wasn't there. You know, he just wasn't there. Now, he was present with Jermaine, you know, when he was off, things like that. He'd take him boxing, but I mean, he's not really spending time with Jermaine. He's really focused. So he just wasn't. And then me at the time as well, like, when in my 20s, like, my 20s was crazy. I was a party girl. I partied, okay? When Jermaine went to bed, I had company. We were drinking. All types of stuff. At the house, he hated it. Brandon hated it. He didn't like it. He tolerated it though, but he didn't like it, and I knew he didn't. He didn't want that, but I did, and I was home with the baby. I was cooking, cleaning, you know, and it wasn't like he was spending much time with us anyway. So my outlet was my company. My outlet was my friends at the time, my cousins, and that's what I did. I was 20. I was a new mom, or I was in my 20s. I don't know exact age. It was just all through my 20s. But I was a new mom. I was fresh out of foster care. I had finished medical assistant school, so I was making money. I had my own, and I wanted to have fun. And I was still young, you know? But that's really, like, our disconnect just happened because, I don't know, his priorities, like, we couldn't meet in the middle. We couldn't meet in the middle. So if I would have been more into fitness, we would have had something in common. Or if he was a drinker, like if he had a drink every once in a while, we would have had something in common. We would have had those things in common. But because he was into a totally different lifestyle, and I was into a totally different lifestyle. After work and after being parents, we didn't have much in common, you know? So we just didn't have any, we just didn't. I liked Brandon. He was a good guy. You know, he was. Did I love Brandon? I didn't love him. It was hard to love. I mean, I was young. And I think that is a valid excuse. I was young. He was 21, 22. He was ready for a life that I never even thought of. I never even thought of. Like, he was ready for marriage. He was ready for a committed relationship, you know, in that way. And those were just things that I just wasn't thinking about at 19, 20 years old. I wanted to have fun. And I didn't know to be serious. Like, if I can go back, you know, I would have married Brandon. I would have married him. I would have tried. I would have let him try. You know, I would have followed his lead. But I didn't, because I didn't know. I didn't grow up. I don't know anybody that was married growing up. Literally nobody. You know, my entire upbringing was completely broken and shattered. Everything about it. Like, everything about it. It's just so distorted, so broken, so fucked up. But for him, he came from relationships. Like, his mom was married. His grandma was married until her husband died. So he's seen a, you know, a wife and a husband work together. And die together, so to speak. And, you know, he's seen that. I never seen that. So it was just never on my radar. So eventually, and he was really good with Jermaine, by the way. He was. When he was good. And Jermaine loved his dad. But we ended up breaking up when Jermaine was 3 over, God, I don't even know. There was some disagreement. And it escalated to the point where his family got involved, and I was just like, I'm not dealing with this shit. Like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I'm just not. Because in my mind, we were the unit, and we should have been able to work it out. We should have been able to talk or fight or whatever we want to do, argue. We should have been able to do that on our own. But to involve your family into our business, yeah, I wasn't dealing with that. That's not something I was willing to deal with. And at that point, because I had been dealing with that, and at that point, that day, I was just done. It was a big altercation. Jermaine was in the car. He was 3.5, and he peed himself. He was that scared he peed himself, or it was just that disturbed. Because like I said, I did my best to protect my son. Like, he's not used to violence. He's not used to disturbances like this. Like, he's not used to a bunch of yelling and all that. So when I saw that, when that happened, and then I saw what the reaction that he had by peeing himself, yeah, I was done. We moved out that day. I went and stayed. I moved in with my mom. And for a while, there was some little back and forth with little things. You know, we were in and out of court, and he put a PFA on me against Jermaine, and he took my son from me for 2 weeks. Of course, I didn't go through because it was just bullshit. But after that, he tried again. We talked. He brought up marriage, and you know, we were looking at rings, and I couldn't do it. At that point, I was gone. I was already free. I had been free for I don't know how long, maybe a year or two. I don't know, a year maybe. And I didn't want to go back. Like I said, I didn't know. I didn't have the idea of a relationship that he did, and I wasn't thinking about life as serious as he was. So yeah, after that, he had me in court for years. Modifying custody orders, trying to get full custody, trying to drop the child support. I mean, years. Like, for 3-4 years, he had me back and forth in court. Now, during that time, we had a split custody order, and he was picking Jermaine up like he was supposed to. So that's when I had my free time to continue to party. That's why I say, like, my 20s was a mess, because, like, he was getting his son, and when he had Jermaine, I was in the streets. And by in the streets, I just mean, like, I was in the bars, and I was clubbing. I was all over, like, going to different states. I was doing me. Completely enjoying my 20s, like a 20-year-old should. But what? Okay, what do I want to go with this? So during, like, after me and Brandon broke up, I moved on with my life, and I just continued to raise Jermaine and love on Jermaine and do as a mother should, or as I thought a mother should. And I feel like I did the best that I possibly could. Like, I did the best that I knew. Me and Jermaine now seem to have this we just have nothing. We don't seem to have anything. We don't have no type of connection. And where I think, looking back, where I can feel like I went wrong with him is, although I was doing my best to protect him, like protect him and, you know, keep him from certain things, keep him from seeing certain things. And I kept him in sports to keep him around men because his dad started going off the handle. And I kept him busy. I prioritized schooling and education. Those things were really important for me. Like I said, he didn't see me intoxicated. I'd have a drink, you know, around it, but I was never like fucked up, you know, like he never saw me like that. I didn't have men in and out of my house. I did my best to protect him, like, but where I feel like I went wrong as a mom is mothers are supposed to nurture their boys. Mothers are supposed to be soft with their boys. But I grew up mothering him with this idea of you can't be soft. And this is from day one. You can't be soft on boys because you'll make them gay, or you'll make them soft, or, you know, like you can't, like you gotta be tough, like you gotta raise boys tough. And we all know what I mean. So, and Brandon was soft with Jermaine. He was not hard on. I was the disciplinary parent in the house because, again, this is what I knew to be. So, in raising him, I was hard on him. I told my son I loved him every day. I told him every day I loved him. Every day. But I was hard. I yelled at him. I was very robotic. Like, we had boom, boom. Like, it was school, work, sports, dinner, bed. There was never no me and him just kind of spending time and, you know, watching movies or just laughing or getting along, like not getting along, but, you know, just connecting. There was never really any of that. It was always, it was always like systematic, if that makes sense. Almost transactional between me and him, and as he was growing up. Like, that's kind of like, I just wasn't a nurturing mom. Like, I was just always busy. My mind was always busy. And what I knew to do to protect my son and to love my son was to just do what I was doing. I had no idea how, like, what love really looked like as a mom to a child, other than hugs, kisses, sports, you know, providing. Like, beyond providing, really, I didn't know what womanhood or motherhood looked like. That's basically what it is. Like, beyond providing, I had no idea what motherhood really looked like. Like, I didn't know what nurturing meant. Like, what is that? I didn't know what that. I didn't know anything about that. Like, I didn't understand that. The concept just, it wasn't there. Because, again, I didn't see any of this. I was raised by a man. My grandpa, he had money, and that's all he had to really give was his money and his teachings, because he taught me a lot. Not intentionally, like, you know, he sat me down and taught me, but I mean, like, he just lived his life, and and I just watched him. So I learned a lot from my grandpa. And looking back, like, that's where I went wrong. But was I wrong for not knowing? I did the best that I could, you know? But as Jermaine got older, like into his like teenage years, I started to see that my son is not the type of kid that you beat, because I used to whoop his ass. I stopped because I realized it just wasn't doing anything. It just didn't seem like it was affecting them. And that's another thing. I don't think we should beat our kids. We shouldn't beat our kids. Like, we shouldn't have to beat our kids. But I started to realize as he got older and more and mature, like in, around 11, 12, 13, that Jermaine he's more of a softer kind of boy. Like, not soft like I don't know how to explain that part, but he's more like, he doesn't yell, whereas I was a yeller. Like, I thought yelling at him and being assertive and having that bass in my voice was what he needed, but that's not what he needed. What he needed was my softness. So maybe let me reframe that. He's not soft, but what he needed to raise him to an emotionally intelligent man was he needed his mother's softness. And because I wasn't able to meet him where he needed me, it caused us to disconnect. It caused him and I to not be able to have a relationship, because I probably didn't feel like a mom to him, because I wasn't the kind of mom that he needed. But he knew I was his mom. Mentally he knew I was, but emotionally I wasn't, if that makes sense. And I look back and, man, it just hurts. It hurts because I feel like had I had the resources, I wouldn't have been so tough. Because I was tough. I was so tough the way I was, and so disconnected because I was afraid. Like, I raised my son in fear. I raised him because I was afraid that if I wasn't hard on him, like if I didn't teach him toughness, and if I didn't show him certain things, that he would be some kind of victim out in the real world. And that's the mindset that I had. The mindset that I had was that I have to raise him to be good. I have to raise him to be strong. I have to raise him to know about life. I have to raise him to know how to work. Like, those are the things that's what was in my mind. It wasn't in my mind to be loving, to be soft. And I guess in a way I was like my grandpa. I was hard. I was hard just like him. My grandpa was hard. I only remember my grandpa saying he loved me and my brother one time and giving us a hug one time in my whole life. My grandpa was hard. Emotions, he never expressed emotions. And maybe that's where I got it from. But had I had the resources, like if his dad was there, if his dad was helping to pull the weight financially, emotionally, I think that at some point I would have realized, I would have been able to, because like I said, I realized kind of what he needed in his, early teenage years. But I couldn't be that because of everything else that I was worried about and scared about. But I think that if his dad would have been there, to actually parent with me, I would have been able to be what he needed. Because I saw it. I just couldn't be it. I couldn't be it. So now me and Jermaine have this relationship, and there's a whole bunch of other factors too why. I'm sure a lot has to do with our homelessness, because he brings that up. We were homeless in a car for about 2 years. He went to Job Corp and came home, and I didn't have nowhere for him to go. And it was just, I'll talk about that another time. But I'm just going to touch on a few things. So it was that. That impacted him a lot. Living in the car really, really did something to him. The relationship that I had, or thought I was going to have with Justice's dad, That impacted my son. I know he feels let down by that. For 5 years, that man made promises to my son. He wanted my son to be his son, and he called him his son. He got a tattoo of his name on his arm. He made all these fucking promises to him, and he didn't do anything. He let my son down. Like, he just let him down. Then I had a baby to that same man. And now Jermaine is picking up the slack of that man. Jermaine is carrying so much of the weight in my house right now. And it's not fair. It's not. So, for him to have resentment towards me, I feel it. And I'm not surprised. I am disappointed because I just don't think he understands. And maybe he could try to understand if he wasn't carrying the weight that he's carrying at 18, 19 years old. But I feel the resentment. And I don't think he's able to know because of because of all of everything. I just don't think he knows how much he means to me. I love Justice. I love him. But I love Jermaine. Like, Jermaine is everything. He's always been. And I have always tried to do my best with Jermaine. Even Justice's dad has a lot to do with Jermaine, if that makes any sense. I stuck around with that man for so long. In part, like, a lot of the reason has to do with Jermaine. Like, I wanted Jermaine to have somebody. I wanted him to have that male figure because his dad wasn't there. And I got bamboozled. I thought that Jonathan, Justice's dad, I thought, based off of the energy he was giving and the things that he was saying, and I thought that he had it. I thought that he was going to be that strong figure for my son. I thought that he was going to be here for him. And he didn't. But before Justice, everything I did, everything, I thought about Jermaine first. He was there. He's always been in the forefront of my mind. And maybe the decisions that I made, they didn't turn out to be good for him. But when I made the decision, I thought I was doing something good. And it just didn't turn out that way. And now I have Justice. And he sees me with Justice. And he sees me loving Justice. And he sees me being soft with Justice. He sees me not hitting Justice. He's helping me take care of Justice. And it hurts me because no one was that way for him when he really needed it. And it makes me wonder how he feels. I can only imagine. And I hate that life came to this for me and my kids. I hate that this is where I'm at with Jermaine, because I wonder if he even knows that I love him and how much. And all I want to do is make it right. Like, I just want to make the last 6-7 years or so. Like, I just want to make it right. I just want to make it right. Because Jermaine is everything to me. Even if he doesn't feel it, he is. He's my first son. He's the one that made me a mom. And my entire 20s and 30s was all about him and trying to be the best parent, the best mom that I could be for him. But there are so many factors that happened. So many things that I couldn't control. And you know, one of the hardest things to do is to be a parent when you still have healing that you need to do. And like I said in the beginning, I tucked that little Chrissy away when I found out I was pregnant. I tucked her away. But when he left for Job Corps, when Jermaine left for Job Corps, that's when that little Chrissy resurfaced. And this is something he doesn't know. He doesn't fully understand why I gave up my place, why I gave up our nice 3-bedroom townhome that we lived in for almost 3 years. He doesn't understand that. And the reason is because he left at 16. From the time I found out I was pregnant until he was 16 when he left. For 16 years, my life has been all about him and motherhood. Even while I was losing all my family, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my brother. Even while I was going through all of that, my life was about Jermaine. When he left for Job Corps, something happened. I want to do another video for that. I'm going to do another video for that, because this is a conversation that needs to have its own video for. But Jermaine is my angel, and he's always been. He's always been my North Star. Always. He's always been my North Star. And one day, I'm going to get myself together. And I'm working on that. But I'm going to get myself together to the point where I'm going to make it worth everything. All the sacrifices that he didn't have to make, but he did. I'm going to make it worth it. I'm going to pay him back. And I'm going to make sure that he knows that I love him and I appreciate him and that I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, when you're in motherhood, you have this tunnel vision. And then one day, everything just stops. And you look back and you realize that, yeah, I might have been going the wrong direction. But at that point, it's too late. You can't go back. You can't change what happened. You can't change things. And that's really what happened. Because I went so long believing that I was doing it right. I was doing motherhood right. Till one day I realized I wasn't. But I couldn't go back and change it. All I could do is keep moving forward. But now moving forward with new priorities. And it's just hard. It's hard to make something right. When it's a plane going by. It's hard to make something right when I'm now dealing with new traumas, new responsibilities. And because I don't have the resources, I have to prioritize those things. Over trying to make things right with my oldest. No matter how much in my mind I want to, and even the little things that I try to do for him or with him, it's nothing. It's just, he doesn't care. And for a while, I was really stagnated because I didn't know how to prioritize the priorities that I need to prioritize over doing what was right for Jermaine. I didn't know how to do what was right for him and prioritize the other things that I needed to, which was I needed to heal from the mess from Justice's dad. I needed to acclimate to single motherhood. Like, I needed to figure that life out. I needed to figure that life out to move forward. And I needed the time that Jermaine was able to give me. So I had to take it. And I couldn't prioritize doing what was right for him because of that. And that just created more distance. I know it did, because like I said, he didn't deserve any of this. But even with that, I feel like I had to do it, and I needed to do it, and I needed him. And I feel like it has made me a better person, a better mother, mentally and emotionally, to actually move forward and do the right things now. I have big plans for Jermaine. I have special, I don't want to say big, but I have like special things that I want to do for him and give him. Like, I'll never be able to change the past, but I am definitely working to make the future for all three of us, for both of my kids. I am definitely working now harder to make the future for all three of us beautiful and amazing. And I just hope that I can do that so that Jermaine doesn't have to harp on the past. And that's where I'm gonna end this. Jermaine is everything to me. He's always been, even if he doesn't feel it. He's always been. The situation has been very unfortunate, but he has a mom who is very conscious of all of this and is working steadily to be better and to do better. Because I love him. I love both my kids. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end this one. But I'm going to part 2 this. And I'm going to talk about in part 2 why, when Jermaine was 16, why he went to Job Corps, and why that, like, the way that actually impacted me. Because that's a very important conversation, because I did some very, 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 very crazy things after Jermaine went to Job Corps. Like, in motherhood, I did some really crazy things that I think that's where Jermaine's where maybe his traumas actually started to happen, because he's traumatized from that experience. So, and I know he is, and I think that he needs to talk about it more, but he doesn't. But I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to part 2 this, and I'm going to talk about from when Jermaine was 16 on, when he left for Job Corps, and how, you know, what that did to me, and, you know, how that impacted our life and our relationship. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end. I'd just like to add, please drop in the comments if you're a mom and you look back on motherhood and you had tunnel vision, but then one day realized, yeah, this isn't working. You can drop a comment, and I'll see you in part 2.